Before I put everything into Ozi Ozar's hands of moderation skills, I would like to make 2 short announcements. First of all, this is a relaxed panel, so you are very welcome to change your seat, make sounds, go in and out if you need to. There is a relaxed area in Studio 6. If you need a break or a rest, you can go there. And second of all, the panel will be filmed, but we will keep the audience out of the video completely. So just the panelists and the moderator will be filmed. And also later in the Q&A, also only your voice will be heard in the video, not your face will be shown. Good. Now I give the microphone to Ozi and we start. Thank you.
Hi. So we're starting finally. And this would be the microphone of another person because I sit there. It's very nice to see you all. Also, lots of you had to run around to get here because of all the bikers. So I'm happy that you had to do some exercise. There is some food outside. You can at any time leave and pick some snacks and come back in. You can be loud if you want. Yeah, don't worry. You can also ask questions if you wanted. I would gladly bring a microphone to you. But also, if you wanted me to ignore you, you just do this and I would ignore you. So you have your space here. I'm so happy that you're here. Yeah, and this would be one of those only days when we do only English. And I'm so happy. Like, Maria, don't speak French on the stage, please. I beg you. I can't. Yes. I'm going to introduce you, Maria, in the next panel. But the first panel, we have Sina, we have Kubra, and we have Azadeh. So come and take a seat. Give them a round of applause for being here today. Choose your fighters. Sit where you want to sit. Also, that's their Instagram. Like and follow, subscribe, these sort of things. I was very stressed about panels because I was reached out for doing artist talk and one panel, and I was like, what do you mean one panel? Like, we need to bring different perspectives. We cannot do one panel and talk about everything. And so I pushed the festival into doing 2 panels at least, so we can divide the artists and people who work in administration, so we can get a little bit deeper into the problems that we have from different perspectives. And they agreed. And then I was like, oh shit, I have to work now. And this was very stressful. Also, especially on the topic that we were working with, it was very stressful. خان گنجه دارم صحبت میکنم. Oh, yes. دارم تعریفتو میکنم. Yeah, anyhow, it was a very stressful situation to pick the correct people that can match together and that can cover as much different aspects at the same time. And it was really like a mission to fail at any point because it's impossible to have the representation of artists in exile from the Iran and Afghan community. And also at the end of the day, we have like 3 Bache Tehrun, and then, I mean, I'm so glad that we have Kubra with us, but it's one of those things that we need to work a lot on in our community to make it more possible, give more or take less space and find more Afghan artists, not that they come from Afghanistan, but also like lots of Afghans, Hazara and other minorities that live in Iran and don't get the possibility to make art because of the racist structure and institutions. Nevertheless, we will talk about all this soon. To begin, as the usual, I will give the mic to the artists and give them each 2 minutes to tell who they are. And then I would add why I picked these people. So hopefully I can convince you why these 3 are sitting here. If not, I don't care, like I tried. Who wants to start? Tak biarım.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Azadeh Ganjeh. I am living in Berlin since April 2022. When I left Iran, and I was, of course, a theater maker, performance artist, activist, and a professor in the University of Tehran in the School of Performing Arts. And now I'm affiliated with the University of Hildesheim, still as a scholar, researcher, lecturer, and meanwhile trying to revive our performance collective in some small projects and hopefully maybe big projects in the future. And my specialty is in looking at the performativity of the protest, looking, because we also, what we did always was as activists working in the public spaces and trying to change public space to public sphere. So what I do is usually to look at possibilities of intervention in the space and to make inclusivity through theater and performance.
Hi, my name is Sina. I come from a background of literature, communication, and I came to performing arts in 2013. And I consider myself a performing artist and also a cultural manager. In my artistic practice, I'm very curious about the meeting point of the personal and the public, and merging the two. And also in my practice as a cultural manager, I'm interested in the idea of what togetherness actually means. Yeah. And thank you for inviting me.
My name is Kubra Khademi. I am a multidisciplinary artist, doing live performances. Basically, I am not. I was not like. I did not have any study of like performance art, particularly. But I'm a visual artist who is making performance arts too. I mean, next to other mediums. Mainly, I work on the question of identity. Like, of course, sexual identity is something that which is in the center of my work. Like, if it is in any medium, body is always in the center. Yeah, I live in Paris since 2015 when I come from Afghanistan, and since then making work. Yeah.
Good person, perfect. You all talked very less about yourself, I must say, which reflects a lot about how certain people take less space, which adds more work for me because now I have to explain who you are. I'm going to give some beef about each and every one of these people to you. Azadeh, first time I met Azadeh was actually in Ufe Studio 2019, and Azadeh back then was teaching in Iran. I ran away from Iran end of 2017. For me, this topic was very big, and having some Iranian in the forum was very nice, but at the same time, Azadeh back then was like, hey guys, you need to be careful with the pictures of me because I'm going back to Iran and everything. And for me, this like duality was something that not only me, but many others ran away from. And Azadeh was still in the middle, not in the middle of it, but you already like went back to Iran. So you were studying in Europe. And I was a bit, like, I must say, a bit angry at Azadeh and like being like, these privileged people who want to have best of the both worlds and stuff, like this sort of bullshit. And then I think last year, and going on, I met Azadeh's students, and I remembered why it was important to sometimes go back and make it possible for the students who just really put all their eggs in the basket of, okay, I'm going to go to university and do dance or study performance art whatsoever, and get this one professor who have met the world a little bit and gives you the access. I mean, nowadays definitely internet is helping us a lot. But yeah, that was a moment where I was like, okay, I'm not going to be so bitchy about you. So that's Azadeh. Azadeh also does lots of site-specific work. And yeah, and the first time you proposed a work in, it was in the other studio, I walked out because it was too political for me. Uh, we can talk about this later. Sina. Yes, it's a. No, I think this is the first time you're hearing this as well, right? Yeah. See, I'm a very honest person. Like, so next time I invited you to a panel, think twice. I might tell like personal matters. Sina, I'm just going with the order. Kubra, don't. I hope that. Or maybe I start with Kubra now. I mean, I don't have that much beef with you. Sina, it was like I'm not going to get into the details, but there was like 2 years that I was trying to reach this person because we wanted to invite Sina to come here, and Sina was not responding at all. And we were constantly like, we were like, bitch, answer. Like, excuse me, we are putting you on the short list constantly. I was really trying to bring Sina, and I didn't know Sina. I just knew that this person exists who is working there. And then 9 months ago, you just came to Germany, came to Hamburg for a residency. And a month ago, because of this panel, I think it was Johanna who told me that Sina is here. Maybe we want to invite Sina to the panel. I was like, Sina came to Germany finally. Like, he answered someone. Great. And then we met online, and he told me that, yeah, I'm doing this residency in Hamburg. Come by, watch my piece. And then we talked. I told like, hey, I'm very angry at you. Why weren't you answering? And he was like, well, babes, I could not due to reasons. And I got very, these were the moments that you get reminded that being disconnected from the situation in Iran and the conditions of working and all the restrictions that you need to keep in mind in working, how much limiting it is and how much that's a reality for you. But when you get out of the country, sometimes you just get desensitive towards it or forget lots of important aspects of it. And I watched a very nice performance by Sina in Hamburg. And I really recommend you, if you have heard or read, the piece is still called Nargis, right? If you heard Nargis of Sina, you should watch it. This is... Yes. I also didn't say why I was angry at you, but it's fine. Cobra, I don't have that much beef with you, I must say. Would also be weird if I had beef with you. Yeah, and Cobra is a very important person for us to have here because of okay, I don't say the beef, but say again. Because of, yeah, I would tell you, when I talked with Cobra a month ago via Zoom, I cried. And I was feeling really bad because I was like, oh, Ozi, like, you cannot like talk with an Afghan person. Like, oh my God, your situation is so like. So I was just really wanted to make sure that I'm not crying because of your situation. But it was like this keyword that she said that, yeah, they were calling us whores at university when we were, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, this is like literally parallel to what was happening to us in Kucha Hajian in university in all the pelotos. And like, this was literally what we were told. And for me, it was like this duality and like simultaneously, whatever it is. This what's the term for it? Like yeah, that what Sina said was a very interesting thing for me, that we have so much in common in the sense of the struggle we deal with, but yet again, we're kept as big islands apart from each other. So that being said, I want to start the panel with actually the question of identity, because we are all people that happen to be in exile right now. And for me personally, I didn't know I'm going to exile. I decided that I'm leaving and I'm not going back to that because lots of trauma. But then like after 2 years, it just really hit me that, okay, this is also called exile. And I tried to run away from this new identity and I didn't speak Farsi for a long time. I tried to run away from the Iranian communities and tried to just really not being like narrowed down to this identity of the Iranian in exile that had blah blah blah. But nevertheless, I got invited at the end to the Performing Exiles Festival. Yet again, I was constantly invited to the panels where it had to deal with this topic. So the topic really followed me, and then at some point I gave in and was like, okay, I have to speak, it seems like it. So I want to open this to you guys and ask you, what does exile mean to you and how you are dealing with this partially new identity that you are carrying? I mean, you are carrying it for much longer, but these two are, maybe it's new for you. Who wants to pick the question? Not much. Not first. Yes, sure. Yes, the scholar needs to talk first.
So I think, first of all, what you propose as a question is already imposing this identity on us. Like when you say, how do you carry this identity of being exiled? I'm not sure, as you mentioned in the case of yourself, if everyone likes to carry this identity. And how does this identity work? Is it something that is imposed on you? Definitely yes. Is it imposed by you on you by the hosting country? I'm not sure if this is the only power. So when you become an exiled person, what happened beforehand, which pushed you to exile? Exile is like a punishment. So what was before that happening? What kind of power actually pushed you toward this identity? So it's not something that you choose already. And then the question of if you want to keep it as your identity. You are kind of maybe in a safe place, because I'm not sure it is always a safe place, but you are in another place, kind of related or in continuity of the place you came from. Exile is a place which is kind of connected to your homeland, or where you feel like you are belonging to, because it's not always your homeland as well. And this belonging thing can work as a rope, which pushes you always backward, but it can also work as a wave. For me, it's like a wave that I'm sometimes moving on it forward, but I already know that there are always turbulences. There are always a lot coming. Sometimes I push backward to the homeland. Sometimes I can go more forward inside. But I see it as a continuity of a sea. I don't feel any segmentation between the land here and the land I came from. This could be sometimes annoying, especially if you feel very much connected, or if you have this kind of, still you have this kind of feeling of responsibility or belonging. But talking about exile or accepting the identity of exile for me is like a responsibility. I chose having this identity as a type of awareness, because I think everyone should know people like this exist. And I think to talk about it is to talk about the powers who, first of all, forced you to this situation. And second, the power which is actually controlling you under this title. So that's why I don't, I don't neglect or I don't ignore this identity. I would like to use it as a term to give awareness.
Maybe you would like to continue, or not? Yeah. I think it's also a term that's being thrown around a lot. I have a little bit of an experience working inside the institution in a way. You know, worked for a short time for the United Nations, and also like in Iran, I was I had an association which lasted for 3 years. So then you have to apply for funding, which means you have to kind of play the games in order to get the money. And so exile for me is a topic that when I think of it, I feel like exile is a status, but also a state of being. And I feel like I never thought about this as a state of being before I personally experienced it. Before that, it was just a topic that was being thrown around. But it is an actual psychosomatic experience, exile. And now I'm trying to understand what it actually means for me as an embodied experience, being here. Yes, join the program of the exile artists. We can give you the money for the artists at risk. And what do you want in return? You know, like, so this positioning is a very complex situation to be in. And yet, at the end of the day, when you talk with the institutions about the topic and you voice your wishes around it, then you always hear the sentence at the end, which is, but you know, you just write it to get the money, you know? And I'm like, wow, yeah, you know, I do get it. It's a game, and I guess that's how the world works. But also I feel like then where is the actual power? And how can you reposition yourself, you know? So for me now, I have so much resistance toward this topic, but also I feel like, yeah, I'm focusing more on it being a state of being right now that I'm trying to live through, to maneuver, to understand. But as a status, I must say that it is a very real thing, and it involves a lot of grunt work and dirty politics to push through. So that's where I am right now with it, trying to understand it, actually. Because I'm on you.
For me, well, I mean, as a term, exile is like like a second chance that will be given to someone who is persecuted for different reasons, maybe. But so as a term, it was this for me also at the beginning, as I was facing this moment of like either death or life. Of course, I mean, nobody's idiot. Mm-hmm. You take life, and there was not question of like I have to think of it. I have to think of like consequences. I have to, like even taking this chance, second life. Mm-hmm. You have to think that where you're going. So I didn't have that time, or that condition that which country, but I had like two options. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember if I say that. Well, which one is better? I mean, I was not in that like psychological state, and then when if anything was coming faster, I just grabbed that. In France was like very quick. This proposition that I had to choose, and so it was like at the beginning for me. It's been 9 years already. I live this life. Beginning it was like, yeah, it's definitely second life. But by the time of like these 9 years of living here, and it's not like 9 years of living this body as a human, but also artists have two lives. There is another. It's the life of her art that. So the on parallel that I am like living it is like it changed a lot. At the beginning, first, I was seeing these all dark things. Like, whoa, the things that I have lost, the amount of violence I received as back there, life of my family even changed. And yeah, a lot of things. And you live with fear even in Paris at the beginning, because it was very fresh. My image was everywhere in my country I talk. And then social network is something that works a lot in Afghanistan, and there is always this other, like, still Afghan community, I mean, in Europe, in France. So like having some, like, yeah, some, like, you see your countrymate somewhere in the metro or somewhere, there is like reactions that you see, that if you're not there but you're here, but you still see them. So I used to face those days a lot at the beginning, and so still I was feeling I'm not safe neither. So, but yeah, I mean, then yeah, I mean, the more I feel protection. So I keep changing my relation to this life, and by keeping and also making art was something that, or maybe this life, or maybe like living your, like giving life to your projects, artistic project. And I realized that it keep changing or developing, if I'm using the right word. That at the beginning, it was, everything was my country. Like, I was so close to it. But by the time I am feeling that it's far, the more I feel protected, maybe. It's like, I'm feeling I'm safe, or the more I healed, I'm thinking that my country is so far. But this far, it doesn't mean it's something terrible is far. No, in the contrary, I'm feeling that I have such a responsibility to this land that I belong, identity that I kept working on it, and like, it's more like it helped my vision to see and build a relation to look at it like geopolitically, relation to Afghanistan. I think the experience of exile, even for the artist, it's always different, male artist or female artist. The gender is like, it has another layer, like Afghan artists in exile. I mean, the Afghan men from Afghanistan who are here, they do not experience what Afghan women in exile is experiencing. It's not the same with like queer community from Afghanistan who are here and who are like visible, who are making, I mean, being artists, like, it's such a loud presence. So it's different, but also like this, like living these experiences, I would say, like, everybody would have kind of like different approach, or but in my point of view, it was like, oh, so it's like a lot of, like, even historical trauma comes up. And then, like, as we were talking, and then, like, my Hazara identity, I realized that I have to say, I'm not Afghan, I'm Hazara, and I'm Afghanistani, of course. So you see, these things like comes up. So it's also like, I guess it is because that you don't belong no more to your root, which is your country. But I mean, look at here, it's few years already. My passport is French. And do I feel I'm French? Am I French? Did something change in me? No. In my physique, in my shimi, nothing changed. But I definitely got more freedom. I can travel. I went to US, I went to Australia. I mean, like, I can go this far without standing in the line. And yeah, things are so easier. I gain more respect that I didn't have with the borders. Now I have. I was terrorist before, now I'm not. You see? But
I'm happy for
yeah,
you.
yeah, it's like also living in exile right now. This life, it is not here nor there, but also it's another state. It's another state. Yeah, it's another state. It's another country. That I think it's the feeling to this country is like it doesn't. It's not tangible, but rather it is suspended. It's like it's elsewhere. Where I am, where I'm moving, where I'm showing my work, where I'm talking, the kind of work I'm making. It's changing. It's interesting that now I see is that how it's changing, how it is getting shape related to geopolitics. Why? Maybe it's because my country is like geographically where it is. This was like playground of like was in still. Now Iran, Russia, and China is there. Yeah,
All region are doing stuff there.
and maybe that's the reason. I don't know. It's an ongoing process. It's ongoing, like you feel it and you develop the feeling and understanding it. You go through, I mean, yeah, it's something ongoing.
Yeah, thank you for all the insight. You went really deep into it. My initial idea of imposing this exile question was to start it from the German perspective of what you get invited to the panels. And then it's like, what does exile mean to you? And it's like, name the last 3 projects I did, and then I would tell you what I think about exile. It's always like about your identity and not what you're interested in. And it's like this, like to start from that perspective. And it's like, I really like the collective answers that you added in. And in order to not fall into that trap yet, it's important for me to now get into the other aspects exactly about your works. What is in your works? What do you work with? And especially from the perspective of what now being in this new country or a new society imposes on your creative process, and what has changed, or what restrictions you faced on the way. Like, for example, you talked about that, yeah, like people tell you like, write this. I mean, I was also one of those people who told you like, yeah, just this is the thing, write this application, get that, and do your own project. But at the end of the day, you have certain morality and certain structures that you work with. Especially there, like, it's stupid to say like, I don't want to be political or blah blah blah. Everything is political, but you can always say that I don't want my piece or my work to be like really placative, Azadeh. How do you say that in English? Whatever, like really up into your face that, oh, this is the problem, but like work with aesthetics, work with symbols, work with signifiers, and not with like really plain language and really upfront. So I don't know who wants to pick this question, but for me it's very important to now lead the talk a little bit in the direction of what is changing in your creative process. Also for you, that would be like in the field of academia, like how do you feel that there is this change, especially for you? You had this experience of studying here and being here for a long time and then going to Iran and coming back. So this contrast, not only from your perspective, but from the perspective of your students, would be also very interesting to have. I throw this question now in your field, and also you're all allowed to not answer a question if you feel like you don't feel it.
When you ask this question, it's working. Hello? Yeah. So I can think of just very recent examples to share, because it's such a complex topic anyway, but I think of 1 or 2 examples I can think of sharing, which were my most recent experiences with that. So first of all, this piece that you talked about that I just made in Hamburg, I was supposed to originally make it in 2020. Out of a research process that started in 2014. So, you know, there was a 6-year trajectory that resulted in me having a wish to make that piece. The movement research behind it, the choreographic practice, and then suddenly there was a 3-year gap and I couldn't make the piece. And I came to Hamburg only after 3 years. And for me, it was really interesting to see how this gap addressed the artistic practice and the artistic process and the wish. So then I realized, I need to de-exotify the piece. That was like the wish that came, because I was kind of like or still in the trap of the exotic, and you know, it sells, right? It's beautiful, you know, bring us exotic piece. I actually made a second piece where I tried to make fun of the topic of exoticism, but it failed and it ended up as yet another exotic piece. So I think in a wish, the wish was this one's also like hello? Yeah. So it was super interesting to know that you actually do get a say. You do, yes. I mean, the application, you have to write it. There's a background, there's a story, because also like who's reading the applications? Like someone who probably does not have any idea about the artistic process or the artistic work often, or I don't know. So the experience in the end was, you know what, actually there is a way to not play the game. And that's the freedom that you get in the artistic work, because the artistic work is still yours. That's the world that you create and then you invite people into. So I realized, wow, there is a power, but there's always a catch. Because, for example, back to your topic about the German context, I have a thing or two to share about that. So they said like before the shows that they want to bring the German TV, the NDR, which is the national TV, and you know, like I have no idea what that context is. I am just an artist in exile from, you know, like only 10 months. So then I'm like, sure, yeah. It's like, yeah, they want to come and promote the piece because we have to sell tickets, you know? I'm like, sure. So they come and they're like, okay, so tell us about the choreographic process. I'm like, yeah, this is the choreographic process. It's a movement research I started 10 years ago. This is where it has led me. Can you show us some of it? Yes, sure. Which, by the way, was supposed to be like a 5-minute thing. But then I ended up on the day of my show doing, that's not true, on the day of the dress rehearsal, doing like
It's important.
okay. Because it's a little bit.
It's queer phobic.
Is this working now? Yeah. Okay. So distractions. Yeah, and then I was like, yeah, sure, you know. And you know, of course, the first question was, so dances in Iran is forbidden, right? And it's illegal, right? And I'm like, are you here to talk about the artistic work and the choreographic research, or like, what is this? And then the journalist was like, no, we know, but you know, it's important for us to be informed. All right, okay, so this is about education, about a context that's isolated. And then I started talking about the complexities of the context, which is that, of course, it's not black and white, and it's gray, and it's many shades of gray. So let's talk about that. And, you know, like my idea was really to shed some light on the complexities of the context. And in the end, there came a segment on NDR without any kind of checking anything with me beforehand and without any kind of further consent. And the topic of this little segment, which is supposed to be about my choreographic practice, is politische Tanz aus dem Iran. And you know, like, whatever, I worked in communication at the United Nations. Like I said, I know a thing or two about, you know, like how the system works. I'm not stupid. But also, I was kind of like, could you be at least a bit more creative with what you're doing? Like, politische Tanz aus dem Iran, like really you couldn't think of a more interesting way to talk about this. And sorry, but I also feel like this is excluding my whole artistic practice in a way, and the choreographic process, which was a labor to put together after a period of being traumatized. And then like it took 8 months to put the pieces together. So I was genuinely angry and pissed. And yeah, that's part of my experience with the perspective here.
Yeah, I think thank you for sharing this also in the panel. I think it's very important to like really voice it what is missing. Because at some point I have the feeling that also like in the German narratives in the culture field, it's just we talk about an elephant that is in the room, but they cannot see the elephant. And like then there is BPOX standing like there, here, and like they're like, well, where is the elephant? I don't really see it, because the piece that you put like Nargis is like such a personal piece for you. It's like about your childhood and everything, and it's like I'm just gonna spoiler alert. I'm gonna tell what's this about, but it's like a very very personal. You also saw it, right? No, you didn't watch. Oh, okay, I won't. But it's like it's really connected to the background of this person, of how you brought to become a dancer, or how it happened to you from, and it just goes from your childhood until now. And like calling that political, I think it's just like really downgrading, really downgrade.
By being a bit more creative.
Yes.
I'm like, come on.
Like it's just like it's such a beautiful piece as well. It's like I had my doubts because I was on a conference before, and I was going to Hamburg to see the result of a residency. And we all know result of a residency is not always a great thing to watch. It's just like, oh, interesting. Thank you for letting me seeing insight into what you're working in. And I just arrived very tired. And then like there was Leila Furuhar playing, and there was just like a very interesting, calm, welcoming place. And it just for our community, it is very important to have this social practice of dealing with traumas and making safer spaces. And this was a safer space. And I think like jumping from this and just talking about the political aspect is very dangerous. Dangerous because it can lead an artist to the direction that they think, if I want to continue, I have to constantly focus on this part. And then you would not work on your aesthetics, which is sad. And just another note to that the person that is nagging about this is a person who paid a heavy price for doing dance in Europe, for like being in the scene there. So it's not being someone being like, yeah, but like, you know, we can do things in Iran. Like, no, they just paid a price for it. So it is important exactly that because of this to take a little bit more into consideration why people are nagging about this. Azadeh.
And sorry, just like one last thing. And also not to mention that this was an extremely insensitive thing to do because it's an issue of safety. So like on the one hand, I'm being supported here with the institution, and then yet you're just putting me at risk. So what is this whole artist at risk thing? Sorry, then I will consider it total bullshit.
That's what they mean with at risk. They put you at risk, you know.
Ah, okay, now I get it. Okay. That now it makes perfect sense.
Right. But you need to make sure you're at risk. Yeah, go on.
If this works, yeah. I keep giving this to you, but getting back to what you mentioned, and also you mentioned as well, and I think it's relevant to what Kubra said. I think one part of being in exile, I don't talk about my work, I don't talk about the differences of academia, because I think something nice popped out that we have to continue with it. I think one important thing about being an artist in exile is to claim your agency. And this agency for an artist is how I would like to frame my work. Do I frame it as an act of politics, or do I frame it in another way? What is my frame? What is my aesthetics? What do I wish for when I'm doing this piece? What is my intention? And this is kind of agency that is that you need to reclaim it. Unfortunately, to exile artists, it is not given. It's not already there. And because there are expectations. It is like we pay the price sometimes. It's not always there. I should make justice. So it's not always there, but sometimes it's like we made a price. You have expenses, and this is what you give back in some cases. So you have to reclaim it, first of all, as an artist. This is the same for me as a performance artist. This is the same for me as a scholar in exile. I see also this among the students who arrive, or other artists who arrive, that they would like to, first of all, they are asked to prove that they are real artists, and to prove that they understand art in their own method, with their own manifesto. It's like there is a cliche, there is a stereotype about all of them. And it needs time. They have to put so much time to actually overcome this cliche and this stereotype. The second thing is, who is interested in us? So when you say, who came to interview you, who is this person? Is it someone who is coming from theater critic newspaper or medias or things like that? Very rarely. So there are mostly politicians who are interested. And this makes problems most of the time, because they don't understand aesthetics. They understand something else. And this is the same when we have, for example, students who come here, that they came through the help of politics, but they are now in a cultural institution. So what they need now is the promotion of their art rather than the political state. Because if you are in a scholar at risk, sometimes you can't, or a person in exile, this is the rest of your life. You need to make something, you need to build something. And that's something which should be considered. And unfortunately, it is not always considered. In my own case, as a performance artist, I am interested in using political dilemmas or things in my work. And in my aesthetics as well, it is related to connecting to the people. So this is also a challenge, because you are connecting to people who get to know you, and you get to know them as well. It could be the same in your homeland, but you already have some cultural background, you already have some basic information about each other, you already have more things in common. So there is a process of understanding each other and making spaces possible that you both can appear. So I think this is, for me, it is very important. That is what I tried to do in my two performances so far after leaving. And before that, I was also performing a lot out of the country. So it was always to find this space that we both can appear and get to dialogue with each other. That's something which needs a lot of effort, research and things for me, but it's not a one-side attempt. It doesn't happen only from my side. And that's why I found performance a very good thing in it. And I found teaching also, like learning together with the students, a very nice space for that.
Teaching is also sort of a performance if you do it correctly.
Yeah, and I think teaching is absolutely a wrong term, because what you do is learning. It is, we are used to use it, but it's absolutely a wrong term, because you are not teaching, you are learning. You're constantly learning, you're constantly sharing. And if not, the space is not true. It's like a hierarchical space.
I find it very interesting that you brought this term, because this is also what I felt from your students, that the connections, I mean, they built always a hierarchy and were calling you Miss Ganjeh or something, which was very interesting for me. I was like sitting with Azadeh and someone being like, "Oh, Miss Ganjeh." I'm like, "Who is Miss Ganjeh? Like, this is Azadeh." Like, what? Because I also learned, like, got to know you in a very like down to earth situation, which reminds me of also the hierarchy we have in Iran in the education system. Like, regardless how much the teachers are trying to get close to you, or in the sense of like being friendly, and yeah, I need to stop my brain right now. Yeah.
I want to say the hierarchy you see in the communities of artists as well. So I would like to put this out. Like the hierarchy you see in the communities, especially communities of artists who work underground. And they also sometimes carry the same hierarchy. They also are in danger of producing monopoly. And I think dancers can speak about this much better than me, perhaps. But that's also something that we should be aware of.
Absolutely. And I think maybe this is actually a good bridge to go to the next topic. There's a microphone for you that hopefully works this time. Or do you want to add something, Kubra, to what we were talking about, or is it okay if we go to the next topic already? Do you have any
You
remark?
can move because I don't have this. I don't have much to say about the points that Sina and Azadeh has raised.
Yeah.
I don't think I have dealt with that.
This is exactly what I want to connect to, because yesterday we were talking about what's the thing that exports the most in your country, and people were like, "Oh, what's the specialties of your country?" And we were like talking about censorship, and you were saying, well, terror.
Yeah, Afghanistan is. I think every. We have different experience about that. For example, music is banned in that we say dance is banned in Iran, but during this now is totally a shutdown of everything. But during 20 years, 20 years we call it, but forever. Music is something that women is singing. We have concert, we have dance, but doesn't mean this country has. We have all liberty of expression. The details are so different that. Yeah, so I come from totally different background, but I know this. We have the big border. Our countries, they're sharing like the long border together, and the religion is almost the same, and the Shiite, Sunni, and culturally we are very close, but we're not. We definitely we are different.
Yeah, exactly. This was something that also popped up in our talk, where you were talking about like being addressed as a whores because you were just like studying dance. I think this was a very interesting duality that we had at the same time. And when we were talking about structures and hierarchy, it was something that, I mean, we talk even in structures in Germany that like in the cultural field, let's take a theater house as an institution, there's always lots of hierarchy, that there is one old white dude mostly sitting, or nowadays two of them, or trying to like add more voices there, and then they decide about the program, what it should look like or what should happen there. And this reflection is taking such a long time to bring newer generation and newer ideas in, to break the hierarchy and give and open more doors to newer artists, especially from Flinta community. To there was this very interesting sentence once I heard in a conference, which I cannot quote the person who said it, but she was saying that in Brazil's, if you want to have an indigenous person to be on a panel or to be in a room to talk about their issues, you need to pay them, because they're probably working somewhere, because they need the money. They don't have the chance to take their Sunday off to come and sit here and like listen to art. And this really resonates, because like if you are from working class, you literally either are Sundays relaxing because you're overworking yourself on the other days to get the money to have the access, whereas the others who have like also generational wealth have the opportunity to just go to the events that they want to and like spend their times freely. And exactly because of that, it's heavily important in the process of creation and programming to open the field to and support artists that you don't see so often. So especially when we're talking about why isn't there so much Hazara choreographers, well, find one who has talent and just give them money and let them continue working. And this is, you need to build a structure. You need to find the people and like invest in the networks. But how to do invest in the network that doesn't bring a hierarchy, that doesn't suddenly put another person in the center that decides about your work, that decides about who should get in the network or not. And so how to decentralize it in a way. It would be nice to hear a little bit from you two, or possibly you, about how you were developing the network in Iran, or how did that work, or what were the experiences of how to deal with the hierarchy. Um, and I think this duality of you having something to say and on this side there's like a total blockage is just a very important to just see it. Like we can just listen to that.
Yes, I think in any kind of isolated context, let's say, because I consider both of these contexts isolated, you know, because of the shutdown, because of all that's happening. I feel like in any kind of isolated context, then there is lack of access to the reality. This is a no-brainer. It's very simple. However, what Azadeh said about the hierarchy also within the underground, this is definitely a relevant topic, because I feel like then if there is an isolation and then you're trying to get the word out, then who's being voiced, right? So again, if there is like within the isolation, yet another isolated bubble that's trying to represent all the voices, it's always going to fail. And I think, yeah, this is probably what I can say about my experience working. And the way I was developing the network also started out of an isolated context, because I came to dance much later than many colleagues who were working in the field. But still, the scene is so small that in whatever corner you enter, you have entered the scene. But then the idea for me was, okay, who are the people? Where's the network? Let's get together. Let's share resources. And it felt quite a challenge because there was a lot of exclusion already. Or, you know, like, sorry.
And lots of this inclusion is also exclusion is also because of lack of trust. And it's hard to trust.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, and also the context doesn't really welcome the inclusion, because you're not, yeah, we're doing this because of safety, but then at some point I'm like, really? And then it's also a question of, yeah, also again, as a gay person growing up in Iran, sorry to use the gay card, I wasn't going to, but
it's the Pride Month, it's okay.
yeah, okay, so cool. But yeah, you know, I definitely felt excluded. It's a real thing, because everyone there was someone standing with a dick in their hand and whapping it in my face, you know? So this is the reality. And so exclusion is that, you know? But then I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'm gonna make a platform where things are possible. And that's what I did. I mean, I came to my friends, my colleagues who were around, and then we're like, okay, there's also these friends and there's also those friends, you know, like, what do you have? Do you have videos? There was already lots of work that was being done before that, obviously. Even before that, there was work that was done and there were figures. But yeah, the way I worked was just to offer facilitation, you know, and try to include more voices, because I saw lots of amazing work, you know, other than the works that is usually visible and usually seen. And I feel like this is still an existing problem, because I have a photo on my desktop background right now. I can show it to you. It's from a show that one of the figures from the dance scene did maybe 7 or 8 years ago in one of the public spaces in Tehran. Her name is Saba Nazi, and she invited us to this collaboration of doing this repertoire of Trisha Brown in Sadabad Palace, which is a public space in Tehran. And this really historic photo right now of, I think, 12 people sitting on the stairs of the palace. And just yesterday in Vienna, 2 days ago in Vienna, we were looking at it with some other colleagues there, and we were saying, wow, look, 2 of those people are still in Iran, and the rest are dispersed. So for me, it's also like a question of, oh, okay, so the isolated scene is now dispersed all around, and then we are here. I hope that what's different this time is that they all can get a voice to also talk about their community and come forward. And especially in contexts such as this one, I feel like it's important to find ways to do better research. Who are the voices? Also, in this context now, outside of Iran, that because of the isolation, because of all the things I said, does not have direct access, well, guess what? Now you do, because these people are now here and they're spread around. So go find them, talk to them, bring them in, invite them, have conversations. No one truly needs a representative these days. Like, everyone is their own voice and their own representative. And they are here.
Yes.
Many of them are queer too.
Yes.
So talk to them.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would like
Can
to
I
add
add-
one moment, and I have a question which I would like to ask Kubra, because the truth about the dance community of Iran is the face is very masculine. Like the image out of the country, mostly the representators, not blame them, but we should acknowledge the fact that the image is very masculine, although there are a lot of struggles among Flintas to be able to actually have their body in the society and on the stage. And I think this is something that we have to consider. And when you mentioned that the experience of exile for a woman who is an artist is totally different with a man who, I never know how the network of artists actually in Afghanistan works. So for me it was also very interesting to know how is this image and how are you a community? Do you see yourselves as a community? Back there and out of the country, because I know you mentioned yesterday that there are a lot of artists now, for example, in France, and that's very interesting for me to know. How does it work?
Back there is like me as a working as an artist in Afghanistan was like it was very like individual like reclamation, like as I did. I was young, I mean, and there was like a lot other Kabul University Fine Arts Department was 85% of them were girls, and few number of them were like boys, and but when it comes to outside, who the heads that comes that they reclaim themselves as an artist, like by making work, making this identity, it was like all of them were men. You see? And then why? Because woman is like, we know it, you guys know it, that if there is like systematic oppression like applied on all art scene, woman face is double. Because like there are like a lot of barriers. There are family, there are, for example, in my case, it was very hard to make it till Kabul University within my family. I was thinking, if I put my feet outside of home, I live in Kabul. Kabul is like, image of Kabul is like, I can imagine Tehran for other provinces is the same. You are in the most important university and you are in the capital. It's the same for us. So it was like, if I had this image, if I put my feet outside, if I live in Kabul alone, and if I live in the world. But no, it was not. It was like, oh, I entered to another level of like this everyday struggle, because there is like Yeah, it was the same, but right now, like because since we are here to talk about like the life of art, the life of artists when it comes outside, as we said like yesterday, thanks to Maria, like a huge number of like artists from Afghanistan, like now living in France. I mean, I am like was seeing what's happening in my country right now. Like you see, like it's a total like shutdown of like school work. Women are like a zero right. That I'm not saying we had like it was paradise before, but it's a total shutdown. That's why we talk about it like before and now. The thing is like, yeah, I'm like to keep these like what art can make change in this suspended state that we live. I'm very, very optimistic about it. And somehow it's resolved this idea of like the man artist is taking more space. Here is, calm down. First of all, we are not in Afghanistan. We are in elsewhere. We can, so it's in this suspended state. I'm very optimistic in the voice of like artists from Afghanistan, like all of them, Pashtun, Tajik, Uzbek, Hazara, all of them. It's like there is potential, possibility and liberty of like rewriting the history. The things that we couldn't say there in this suspended state, we have this responsibility of reclaiming and bringing up this discussion of like where we were, what we couldn't say because of like a lot of layers of oppression. But now we are going to talk about it, and and building this, not building, reclaiming our identity.
Thank you for sharing. Just for us all to know, we started 15 minutes later. The next panel, there would be only 2 people there, so we would take less time there and talk a bit more here. We would talk another 15 minutes, and then we would take a break. There is also food outside, so get hungry. And I want to ask my last question and then open it to the audience. So it would be good if you could, as much as possible, keep the answer short. To talk about ideals of working in the situation you are right now. What would be your wishes of a condition that you can imagine that this is a good condition for you to work with? Or what would be your needs? I can repeat the question. Wow, yeah, that's why you're... Is that coming to you when you just... I like... No, like I was trying to like use the gender neutral term for parents, but I could not remember the term parents. So is that coming to you when you're a parent, or would you get it when you start teaching at university? Okay, we can discuss that later. But yeah, what would be the condition that you can that you would wish for to achieve or to have to continue your creation? For instance, we talked that in Germany, usually you're booked in the museums and not in other rooms, which really restricts your artwork and frames it in a totally different context as well. So what would be your wishes for an ideal working condition?
I don't know what to say it. I want to continue. Don't censor me, or don't. I just want to continue.
Well, I think you know, because you said, I don't censor me. I think like this is not a tiny thing to say, babe, being like, well, I just want to continue. Don't censor me. Like, sure. Because I mean, you're working a lot with bodies. Yeah. And it's like the female body is a very important cornerstone of your work. So you just want to have the ability to continue and working, but you have to feel like what you're having in France as a working condition is also something that works for you, or
I'm lucky. I am not feeling that. Maybe somebody always told me, because I keep expressing myself. Maybe I come from like a very hard situation, because hard situation means in terms of everything. It's not only that artists don't know if they are, because I function this way. I don't know about others. I don't know. I do not see, or I do not tell myself. I'm lucky, maybe. I hope I will remain like this forever, that I have to say that, okay, certain things I cannot say, or certain things I have this much degree of liberty and the rest I don't have. I'm lucky I don't know that. I don't feel it. I never felt it before. I don't feel it right now. I hope I will remain the same. For example, I say it because my performance that I did in Afghanistan, my last work in Kabul, that almost cost my life. That was something that even till now, after 9 years, people keep asking me, was it worth it? I say, what? Why? I mean, how can expect from an artist that artists should know, artists should be conscious? I think artist is conscious about her own creation, and that's it. I do not calculate how much freedom I have outside. If I know it, I think I'm somebody else. I'm not artist. But if you're an artist, I think you just listen to yourself and you just do it. I mean, I do it as a possible, for example, at the beginning of COVID, I still didn't know it. We didn't know it was COVID, and we suddenly, all of us, entered to these restrictions. But I had a very huge studio. I was lucky I got that, and I said, it was first time having this size of a studio. And suddenly I said, I can run. And then I opened a roll of paper I bought, 10 meter, and I cut it in 6 meter. I'm sure it was, if I had more space, it could be 10. But and I made drawing of 6 meter. I draw myself oversized, and I said, why not? I would love to. I felt it at that moment. Why not? I put my body here, and then everybody is smaller than me, including men. They're smaller than me. I'm oversized. You see, these kinds of feeling, artists function like children. You feel, and then you do. I mean, you do it. I'm sorry. This is also something comes from a very privileged position, that you feel, you do it. I mean, no, we don't feel we do it because of things cost, and also being accessible. I mean, woman has a lot of functionality and a lot of responsibility. But the thing is, even within this responsibility, artists are so creative. They will find their way. Even within a lot of limitations, because I talked about limitations, that I come from hard situation, but so I know how to find my way somehow. But this finding my way doesn't mean I compromise. I never compromised in my artistic career, in my life.
Yeah, one can see.
And I hope I will remain the same, and I would never do. But when I say censor, I think it's something that I'm asked. I am injected this to have this conscious, because right now even we are here to talk about exile, but I live in, as I called it, in a suspended state that I live. It's something, to be true to your feeling is to be truthful to your being of artist, to your ideas, and to you yourself is something artists must have. And continue. That's why I would rather say to continue. That's my wish.
I wrote it down as well. What about you? Is it? I know it's a very tough question I'm asking.
Yes, of course. I mean, ideal is what? Are we imagining a beautiful dream? Is it But yeah, I think for me the most ideal setting will be that which does not keep perpetuating the narrative that wasn't working in the context where I was. So I wish now that I'm outside, at least that context does not have to follow here. So I'm hoping that this free world here offers actual freedom. Because again, back to the topic of this interview, Sorry, I'm still like processing it, talking to my therapist about it. I feel like there was this question of, yeah, like, yeah, but it's illegal, it's forbidden, da da da. And I was like, come on, like, something is illegal everywhere you are. And here I also am not, in theory, living in a free world, but not really free. So yeah, my wish is to, since we are talking about dreams, to be able to actually express freely whatever topic that comes, because also like Cobra says, like, I don't know what my concerns are in 2 weeks from now. The world is shifting with a crazy pace and is crumbling in front of our eyes. And I feel like I might not talk about my childhood anymore. So, you know, there might be other topics which are urgent, and I wish to be able to express it. And if one day I decide to become a politician, I think I would be a good one. But for now, I really wish to keep the position of being a creative person and create art. And I wish that I could be allowed to do that in this context. So I think these are the two things I can say.
Thank you. Azadeh.
I'm so happy I'm the last one because it's really a hard question. And you both mentioned a very nice, you both let us imagine a very nice dream. Yeah, for me, of course, freedom of expression, but not only for myself, for everyone. Because what I do is to get connected to politics of people. So we need freedom of expression for everyone, not only myself, to make this happen. And I need money. Of course, I want money. Thank you. A dream full of money, fundings to do whatever we like, and we feel like it is necessary. Yes, this is the truth. And I need a lot of, I need a space with a lot of inclusion and not integration. So I am dreaming of somewhere which is not about integration, but it is about inclusivity. It is about creating together. I am dreaming of a space of production which matches a lot with the third space, which Bahaba talks about, and also Soja tries to make it real on Earth.
I think it's interesting to talk about dreams after the piece last night as well, because we also all got a cake writing our dreams. We don't have a cake today, unfortunately, but I have a microphone that can travel between you if you have a question. Is there a question in the crowd? Is there a question in the crowd 10? Is there a question in crowd 9? Is there 10 sold in the corner? Coming to Ella.
Thank you so much. So I have, I think, too many comments and questions, but I don't know which one I have to start. Actually, the first comment I expected, we 10 days we were busy with dance and choreography, and actually I expected more voices in this panel from dancers and choreographers. As I said earlier, I think last week in the panel, the dance is really so special because of the situation in Iran and also outside, because the body is in the middle point, and so I think I expected more voices from this field. So the other thing that came to mind was Azadeh's comment about the image of dance outside Iran. I didn't understand outside Iran or inside Iran. You said that it's masculine. What's your clue?
So it was getting back to this representation thing. And there are a lot of male dancers who are out of the country very active, as same as very much female dancers and filintas and queer dancers.
What is your clue actually? Do you have any access to any?
No, I'm not
statistic
talking
or
about the
any-
statistics.
So, I mean,
We will,
that is
yeah.
for me very important because I'm working on it.
Yeah, of
And
course,
I
you
would
are
like to- yes.
you are the person who has the statistics, exactly. I'm not the person who has the statistics. For me, it is whenever it's something which is happening very much in the academia, for example, in Iran. When the students are doing research on dance, usually they access male dancers because they are more reachable in the country, because they are more, not really free, but they are more able to actually appear, in a little bit more able, really. So what I have is like the students actually reach male dancers mostly to ask their questions, to do research, while they don't do this with filintas, with female dancers, and this is a problem. I see it as a problem. So I don't have a statistics of how many dancers we have out of the country. It's what is actually prominent in the field of research. There are a lot of good tutors. There are a lot of good teachers, dancing teachers and mentors who they actually try to reach them and ask questions or have lessons with them. But mostly they reach male dancers in the country and less female dancers. And that's a problem also when they make research, as you know, and you wrote a book, a very well book on that. I always have to talk about them, about this book as a source, which you recently published, and it is not in the list in the country, and that's a problem. So what I'm talking about is what I see as the experience, not as the statistics. I don't have it, you have it.
Thank you. Also, I have a comment. Sina's, you told us about this reportage in the air and about the politicalness of dance and the questions they asked you. So, and you spoke about your piece. It was about your childhood and your career as a dancer. So, right? The piece.
I mean, that's one way to talk about the piece. It's a very complex piece with so many layers.
So I understand. I understood your topic. For a person, I think for all of us that know about the situation of dance in Iran, it's political. You can't say I can't dance just as an artist. I think it's a kind of trap. I think I know what you mean. You do want your creative work, but it is political, especially for a journalist. The journalist doesn't have time to go and research and check all the sources and so. It is political, and I think maybe they are not aware of why they are doing or asking, but when you know you have to deal with that, I think you can say, I don't give an interview. That's it. I mean,
Yes,
so
no,
I think that's the, yeah.
that was actually the thing that I said to Kadrai after. I said, I'm never ever again doing an interview, especially with this organization or any other TV. And, you know, like, of course, you can also ask for the transcript and, you know, you give your thing. So what I was not happy about was the way that it happened, because I felt I was put into a trap. And, you know, and also, I also understand what you are saying, but I feel like it's a trap altogether, both ways, you know? So for me, it's really like, what is not political today? Like, this was a question that I'm asking. So, you know, like, of course, like, if we talk about it broadly, that is the case. But I just don't wish to be a contributing factor to this perpetual narrative. And that's a position I'm taking. So maybe it will not be to my benefit in the long term, or maybe I will be excluded furthermore. That is a risk I'm willing to take. because it's just a matter of positioning myself. What is integrity for me? What it means to me based on my boundaries and values. So this I'm very clear about. But I totally understand where you're coming from and what you're saying. And thank you for the comment.
While looking for the next question, which would be the last question, hopefully, I will shortly give a comment that I started saying that everything is political. So you cannot say, I don't want to be political, but you should have the right to frame yourself in the context that you want to. And I refuse any journalist that is like, I'm too busy, blah, blah, blah. This is extremely racist to just see us as an entity that needs to constantly talk about the politics behind our works. I refuse that narrative. I was brought, like, ever since I started working since 2022 because of the revolution in this field and speaking up, because I had the feeling there are lots of voices missing, I was brought in everywhere as an activist. They completely refused me as an artist. Like, all the venues that booked me before, I was suddenly like, Ozi, an activist sitting with. I was like, bitch, I was like, excuse me, like, you're booking me constantly for other things, but this was like, it went to, and I'm fighting for it. Like, I'm fighting for it to not brought in. Like, when Lilienthal reached out to me and it's like, hey, do you want to do performing exiles with us? Of course I want to work with Lilienthal, but at the same time, no, like, the context is just putting me again in the category because you're reaching out to me because of being an activist and not because of my work. So I really, like, refuse it from beginning on from any journalist that is like being like, but how is the situation? But I have an art. So sorry, I had to, like, bring this in. We can talk about this, but I also get your point. Absolutely, we will talk about this. This is like why I put these people together to get this vibe here.
Thank you for the very rich talk. I want to make a bridge to something that is still resonating here, and that just giving a context that as an artist who works here and needs to meet certain condition in order to be working. And as we know it, it's a chain, like working, getting visibility, and then bringing on topics. I found, okay, maybe I don't say what I found, but I put on a question here for us to reflect maybe collectively, and that is, when applying for the like fundings or any kind of financial support, how can we together from this certain context imagine ways of, like, not giving into reproduction of something that at the beginning we were talking about, like exile, or certain ways of introducing ourselves in order to get the money. But finding, is it possible at all to find other ways of putting those kind of issues or topics that we want to work in? Because I think it's a kind of a chain. Like, we realize that if putting things in a certain way that we are asked, like, let's say, specifically here as a topic of now, exile, if we put it in order to get money and do whatever, yes, there is a catch, as you say, but there is a second catch, which is long term. So it's like, yeah, it's like a supply and demand. Like, if the politicians or whoever has the money sees that, yes, there is a yes to this call, so they open it again. And how to resist this in order to open other spaces of interesting topics for us to work, like, just not to say yes to this demand for that certain moment, but in a way find other openings, so that I think it's quite a lot of work. And I think I saw myself a lot not doing it. And then I had a feeling like, but okay, but others are doing. So as much as I don't do it, or certain people are not doing it, and the rest are still giving in, it does not work. And it's not only the matter of financial support that you receive, but it's like it mutates, you know, so that it goes on. And the chances for other openings, for other topics, or different ways of like other narratives, basically, is less and less, because what is asked, we give in. So sorry, it got too long. So that the question is how to do it, how we open other spaces of introducing ourselves and our work, and somehow, yeah.
Any one of you want to give a comment on that? Or?
Very, very brief one. I feel like I thought of braver spaces. You know? So I think, yeah, maybe something like this is already helping, like conversations, putting it out there, and then bringing people in who could potentially do something about it, you know? So I feel like always this topic of let's connect the artists and the institution, let's connect the artists and the decision makers. I feel like it is super important because it's not just an idea or a task on the activity list of annual of the institution, you know, but technically I feel like maybe it's partially happening. And what I was very happy about this panel was that then after this, there will be people who are doing the grunt work and potentially can shift things a little bit. So I think it's a very long process and it's very complex to talk about. And I totally understand that it's coming from a context of precarity quite a lot. And you're like, we're in pain from the precarity. And then we're like, oh, but if I do it, then it still is happening. So what's the point? And integrity is like such a irrelevant thing these days in our context. Like integrity, like, come on. But I think the fact that we are now having this conversation and putting it out there and bringing some voices also from the institution, it's not a terrible step. Small step.
Yeah, thanks a lot for adding that. Some of you are hungry. Some of you need to go to toilet. For myself, I have to definitely go to toilet. Thanks a lot for adding this topic. We will catch it in the next panel and talk about it more. What are the ways to deal with this? I want to thank everyone who added some inputs, questions, and I also want to thank Dana for being here with us today. It was very great to have you. And so a round of applause for the
Thanks.
You're welcome. So a round of applause for everyone in the room. And we take a half an hour-ish breaker and we start again soon. See you soon.